Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled The Occult, Occultism, Our Enemy. That's tonight's video. Alright, so let's examine the definition of occult, shall we? Because it's not necessarily what you think it is. I think most people are cajoled into a false understanding of that which is hidden from us, right? Everything is about hidden. So the typical definition for occult is supernatural, mystical, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomena. Okay, an example of this would be a secret society to study alchemy and the occult, right? However, if you go further, you'll delve into, it's what military intelligence is based upon. Occult comes from the Latin root occultus, which means hidden or secret. That's all. You know, like a secret conspiracy, right? To organize a criminal element and then not tell anyone outside of the room of criminals, right? You've heard of conspiracies, haven't you? That's what we cover in depth on the Juxtaposition 1 channel, and my paid members are quite expert in that, and many are members of the Star Chamber. I have a Star Chamber within my paid member group. Yes, I do. All right. It means that we don't spend 10 seconds talking about conspiracy theories on my show. It's we don't have time because there's so many thousands of actual plots, military and bank funded, financed crimes against humanity. There are so many tens of thousands of those that there's just no room to talk about hypothetical or conspiracies that perhaps were on blueprint somewhere but never actually got put into service, right? We're only dealing with criminal activities that the Committee for Public Safety will intend to issue arrest warrants for and bring in the usual suspects associated with crimes against humanity, right? Lord knows we're just seeking out prison facilities to handle the 20,000 people we'll be rounding up. At least 20,000 people are going to get rounded up. All right. And then, of course, they're going to rat out other members, and then we're going to need enough space for 1 million prisoners. All right. I guess you'd call them detainees, right? We call them detainees. You know, like the 9/11 detainees. We're going to have something like that for the when the rubber meets the road on the biodigital convergence, human augmentation, CRISPR therapeutics, neuromodulation, electrical engineering, molecular engineering, synthetic biology, any people associated with the rollout and the deployment of Frankenstein zombie apocalypse over humans using CRISPR technology, Cas9, and the Havana syndrome, and photonic lights, optogenetics, ring cameras, ultrasonic weapon systems, LED lights, Bluetooth, Zigbee, low-frequency weapon systems. You're all going to get rounded up and detained for extensive questioning and polygraph examinations. The occult, or what I like to say, hidden and secret, it's a category known as esoteric. It's not necessarily a supernatural belief. It just has to be complicated enough to where your typical profane, vulgar, clueless citizen doesn't want to pursue Masonic signs and symbols, which do rule our world. Our world is subjected to secret handshakes, secret codes, numerology systems, street addresses, dates, ages of victims, also known as cult sacrifices, typically presented to us in the form of a suicide or a manic episode or a rodent dropping toxicity death, or perhaps it was a drowning in a duck pond, like in the case of Obama's chef, or it was like in the case of Carol Wayne down in Mexico at a resort. She drowned in a duck pond. Or that it was Natalie Wood who decided to go swimming at 11:15 at night on November 28th, 33 days before the new year of 1982. And she went swimming at 11:15 p.m. November 28th, 1981 in 53-degree Fahrenheit temperature in pitch darkness, and she doesn't know how to swim. So you can call mysticism on that if you like. I'm going to call homicide murder and the arrest of Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken, who was a member of the Occult. Both of those knuckleheads are. Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken are both Screen Actors Guild Occult members. You know, the Screen Actors Guild is a military cult. Ronald Reagan was the president of that cult for 7 terms. Ronald Reagan is a member of that cult, or was, right? And so was Elizabeth Montgomery's father. He was too. It was Robert Montgomery. He was a member of the Screen Actors Guild military cult. It's like an organized religion or an organized science. You know, like the Church of Scientology. Is it a religion? Is it a science? Well, the IRS has bestowed a tax-deductible, tax-exempt tax status for the Church of Scientology, so they consider it an organized religion in the way that they also treat the LDS Mormons, in the way they treat Buddhists, in the way that they treat the synagogues in Judaism, in the way that they treat the Catholic Church, or the Episcopal Church, or the Pentecostal Holy Rollers. They also receive tax-exempt status so that your donations to those military organizations can be reduced, reducing your income tax by reducing your income. You can deduct your payments to an organized religion in America. Yes, you can do that. We promote occultism in America in our tax code. Anyway, it also refers to the paranormal or things like extrasensory perception. We have that today with Terra Swarm. We have a sky and troposphere chock full of aluminum, plastic, arsenic poison, titanium, magnesium, strontium, and nobody seems to notice it. I would call that a form of mental illness, a form of disability of cognitive thinking, a lack of spatial awareness, and I call it an extrasensory phenomena. That's what juxtaposition calls the lack of comprehension that we have military planes flying over our skies every day, in my town every 10 minutes. That would include helicopters, turboprop planes that are obnoxiously loud, flying between 1,000 and 2,500 feet, which is low, over a town with no flight plan. Certainly there's no public noticing of any flight plan. And then we have jets flying at around 18 to 20,000 feet above, dumping metric tons of aluminum chalk over the town for years. Okay, we're going into our 4th year now. We're in our 40th month, going into our 40th year. Pardon me, 4th year, 40th month. The term occult sciences was first coined back in the 16th century Europe. It referred to astrology, alchemy, which means change, and natural magic. The term occultism emerged in the 19th century in France, and so on and so forth. I'm going to skip forward here. I'm going to provide several links to my show notes as usual, but famous occultists that have been thrown out in the lexicon of terms and milieu Masonic order members are Aleister Crowley, for example. There are, many where he came from. He was promoted and he's associated with British intelligence, and he is a member of the United Kingdom realm, the realm of the kingdom. And out here in California way, we had a Canadian roll into Los Angeles. He also spent time in San Francisco, which would be my neck of the woods. And his name was none other than the left eye of Horus himself, Manly P. Hall. And the P stands for Palmer, right? Let me just check him for a second here. Manly Palmer Hall. He was born March 18th, 1901, and he lived until 89 years old. He died in August 29th, 1990. So he was a man with a sixth grade education, no university training, but he rose to the highest level within the Masonic order. He was known as a writer, a lecturer, astrologer, and a mystic. He had a 70-year career, and he gave thousands of lectures, published over 150 volumes of papers, and he wrote many books. His best-known book is The Secret Teaching of All Ages, written in 1928 when he was only 27 years old. You should be recognizing the number 27 comports to 999, which is Meta-Dead. Meta-Dead also comports to the demolition of a society. You know that the Masons are known for building things, right? They're like bricklayers and architects and engineers, like Richard Gage, for example, who was not a practicing architect nor engineer. He's not an architect. He's not an engineer. What he is a intelligence asset for the Department of Energy. That's what he is. He's a spook, babysitter, creep, and a buffoon. But in order to build something, you have to lay a foundation. And if there's something already constructed where you want to build a replacement building, like Donald Trump talks about MAGA, make America great again, build back better, build back better, build back better, BBB, right? That's like 222, right? B is the second letter of the alphabet. It's 3 B's, build back better, 222. What's 222? Like room 22 on television? Well, adds up to a 6. What's a 6? 33, the highest level of obedience within the obelisk of the chain of command of the Masonic order. So what I'm saying, big build back better means the highest level of the occult, which is reflected and expressed by the obelisk or the pyramid of power. That's build back better. All right, but you have to demolish whatever was there already, or get out a land mover and excavate some dirt and build some terraces like they did at Benedict Canyon, like they did in Berkeley, California, where Jennifer Doudna lives and where Stephanie Bryant was murder sacrificed as part of a military cult. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like she was a 14-year-old sacrificial eldest child of a family of 5. Stephanie Bryant, if you haven't seen my video on that, do check it out. I did put it behind the paywall, so you have to pay for that. Anyway, Alvarado Road, Alvarado Place, Vicente Road, and Evergreen Pathway and Evergreen Road, all the homes in that neighborhood and above it in Hiller Highlands, 100% of all the residential homes on that hillside were burned and destroyed in October 1991. And what's puzzling, but not to juxtaposition, is that a wooden framed Claremont Hotel, which has 442 rooms and has stood since 1915, didn't have a scratch, didn't have any smoke inhalation problems, didn't burn up, didn't implode. There it is. It's a beacon for Satanism, isn't it? It's like just a beacon for the occult. On Ashby Avenue. Ashby Avenue is a secret cipher code for Earl Warren, Chief Justice of America, whose namesake is associated with the Warren Commission or the Warren Report. Earl Warren has a freeway. It's called the Warren Freeway. It's number Highway 13, Unity Amongst Masons. That's the Earl Warren Freeway. It has many satanic facilities over its distance. It runs north or south to north, north to south, but it does bend at the Claremont Hotel and head due west, pointed at the Trans-American Pyramid in San Francisco. So it does go east to west, west to east, and then south, north to south, south, north to south, south to north. So what I'm saying is it has a bend in the road at the Claremont Hotel. That's where it changes its direction from north and heads west. All right, and along the highway you'll find the Navy Veterans Hospital, which has been demolished but was there for many years. They had Sonny Barger in the house next door to the hospital. We had the Mormon LDS Temple, constructed in 1963. They were working on that before Jack Kennedy had his head blown off. They're building the Mormon Temple with an underground windowless temple, baptismal and marriage seal room there on the hillside of Joaquin Miller Road. There it is. There it is, next to the Greek Orthodox Church. You've got the LDS Mormon Temple in the Oakland Hills, looking out at San Francisco. Then if you continue along, you'll have where Juxtaposition was a paperboy for the first time underneath Broadway Terrace and the Warren Freeway at Lake Temescal, adjacent to Lake Temescal. And there I was. Who knew I was in a satanic Masonic cult of the Earl Warren Freeway, which cars drove above my head whilst I folded papers underneath the Warren Freeway. And if you continue, you get to what is called Ashby Avenue, and you'll be at Jennifer Doudna's home. She's the Chancellor of Biomedicine at University of California, Berkeley. She's the founder of CRISPR Therapeutics in Zug, Switzerland, which has offices in San Francisco at Mission Bay and also in Berkeley at the Doudna Lab as part of the Innovative Genomic Institute, which is also at 2151 Berkeley Way off Phoebe Hearst Avenue and the Earl Warren Building. Her laboratory is directly across the street from the Earl Warren Building. Phoebe Hearst, or Hearst Avenue, you should know that Phoebe Hearst is a tremendous believer in the occult. She was the mother of William Randolph Hearst, not his wife, his mother. Remember, William Randolph Hearst had a girlfriend, Marion Davies, who was 30 years younger than him, and then he had a wife back in New York. But he had a mother who was domineering. He was the only child, and she was into the occult. And she has founded the Hearst Anthropology Museum on the Cal Berkeley campus. Of course. And then down in Los Angeles way, we have Manly P. Hall, and he founded what is called PRS, which stands for Philosophical Research Society, and it's on Los Feliz Boulevard. And it has an address, of course. It has an address, and it's a Masonic address. I know you're not surprised, especially if you're a paid member. You would know that there's always a sign and symbol that tags everything all the time, everywhere, no matter where you go. So the address for the Masonic Satanic Philosophical Research Society is 3910 West Los Feliz Boulevard. Zip code is 90027, which if you add those numbers up, you get an 18, which comports to a 666, right? Mark of the beast. But the address, 3910, if you add those numbers up, you get 13, Unity Amongst Masons. So not only is the street address for the Philosophical Research Society, not only is that a Masonic number 13, but their zip code is a Masonic Mark of the Beast 666. You should know that the next door neighbor is Jack Black, the comedian. Before Jack Black lived next door to the Philosophical Research Society, the Red Hot Chili Peppers lived in that home. And across the street to the north of Los Feliz Boulevard is Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. They live across the street up on a hill in different houses. They're in different houses. Remember, they have a lot of adopted children, so they somehow have to coordinate their schedules. I guess. I don't know how it all works. But I want you to know that the definition that we lean on heavily at the Juxtaposition 1 channel is that occult just means secret, private, none of your business. That's what that means. It means that these people who are at the highest level, which is 33 and above, there are levels above 33, and they're secret. I can't tell you what they are, right? They're top secret. But these are people that are engaging in signs and symbols, you know, with the left eye of Horus. That's where Jack Kennedy had his right eyeball deliberately on purpose blown out, so that the only eye Jack Kennedy had left was the left eye of Horus, right? And you need to do your Egyptian research to look into Set, Temple of Set, Michael Aquino, the Church of Satan, all of whom are involved with signs and symbols and Masonic addresses. And so too is Manly Palmer Hall. They are all into their temple and temple worshiping. Now, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, that means you're a vulgar, profane person. Now, how vulgar you are, I don't know, but it means you're ignorant, you're not a temple worshiper, you're not familiar with signs and symbols, you don't know how to interpret the cipher codes. You know, these invisible hands of the puppeteer, they consider themselves the brain. They're the HAL 9000 in the cloud. The highest level of the Masonic order, which would be above 33 level, they see themselves as the brain. And they see everyone in the Masonic cult who's at level 32 to all the way down to level 1. And then all the people who are not in a Masonic lodge, you're not in the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or the Del Moye Society, you're not in a society, you're not in the Church of Scientology, you're not in the LDS Mormon Church. If you're not, then you're considered vulgar and profane. You're not a temple worshiper. You're not a temple worshiper. And so they laugh at you. They know you're stupid, that you don't get it. So they install almost 3,000 5-pointed pentagram stars along Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street, where they put down stars for Ronald Reagan, Joanne Woodward, Humphrey Bogart, you know, Sonny and Cher, and they put down one for Paul McCartney and John Lennon and the Beatles. And you know, of all the people, of the 2,850 pentagram stars in the sidewalk of Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street, who do you think is the biggest pathological liars of everyone on there? They're all part of the Maskers Club. They're all part of the Hollywood Screen Actors Guild, or guilds having to do with music, theater, radio, television, film. Guess who the biggest liars are on Hollywood Boulevard? By far. Well, that would be the 3 Apollo 11 astronauts, Mike Collins, Neil Armstrong, and Buzz Aldrin. They each have 4 5-pointed pentagram stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They have 4. Nobody else has 4. Judy Garland doesn't have 4. I think she has 2 for film and music. And Ronald Reagan just had 1. I think Donald Trump has 1. Arnold Schwarzenegger has 1. But Neil Armstrong, he has 4. On all 4 corners of Hollywood and Vine. On all 4 corners. The northwest corner, the northeast corner, the southeast corner, and the southwest corner, Neil Armstrong has a star, as does Buzz Aldrin, as does Mike Collins. They each have 4 stars. That's 12 stars total, 33. Anyway, that means the Apollo 11 moon landings were a lie, they were fake, and that those knuckleheads are actors on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That means Buzz Aldrin, who's still alive, he graduated from West Point, which is military, and he is an obedient Masonic member of the military, as was Mike Collins, as was Neil Armstrong, who was United States Navy and Air Force. All right, so This is how they lie to you. They use hospitals, charities, the Red Cross, foundations allegedly to help the sick and poor, to commit criminal activities, money laundering, murder, fraud, deception, and larceny, grand larceny. I mean, who better than a church to get away with murder, right? I mean, you want me to give you some examples? There's no shortage of them. Have you heard of the People's Temple and Jim Jones? Is he not? Was he not a tax exempt charitable organization, a church, People's Temple, that helped the poor? He was. He was. He was. And what was the Symbian Liberation Army's first act in the kidnapping of Patricia Hearst, who's a granddaughter, a great-granddaughter of an occultist, Phoebe Hearst, and the granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, who was a newspaper yellow journalism maven of mendacity, was her grandfather. And their first act was to have canned food distributed to the poor throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. They're an act of charity, right? An act of charity was the military mission of the SLA, the Symbionese Liberation Army, under the tutelage of Donald DeFreeze, who went by Field Marshal Sin Q, and Patty Hearst, who had her name changed to Tanya. It's a mystery within a mystery, right? It's the unblinking seeing eye. See, like, don't blink twice, you'll miss it. It's a fraternity within a fraternity, all right? It's a pyramid within a pyramid. It's pyramids within the pyramid. It's horizontal fabric arrayed in the form of a hierarchy of a chain of command expressed as an obelisk or a pyramid, right? And there's a pyramid in your city. Go check it out. There could be multiple pyramids like there are in San Francisco. There are multiple pyramids all over my growing up. There are pyramids and obelisks. But I really didn't notice. It's all about the hidden hand. It's about the secret handshake. It's about getting tattoos, especially 13 tattoos like Dakota Johnson or Amy Winehouse, for example, or the porn stars. Almost every porn actor it has tattoos. And almost every Hollywood actor has tattoos. I can't think of a single actor that doesn't have some tattoos. It's part of the secret religion and part of the unblinking seeing eye. But the decisions are made really by the princes of Freemasonry. And in my book, I was always interested in Lucio Gelli, who was the head of Propaganda Due in Switzerland and Italy, and the Knights Templar and the Knights of Malta, because I knew people who are members of Knights of Malta, and I was fascinated why there were so many bankers in there, along with people like involved with the State Attorney General's office or District Attorney. And then I realized now today it's because we have no justice system. All the economics of our society, which is driven by bankers and credit lending, that determines our economy. In other words, the planned economy, it's based on the credit. That's why bankers are considered high priests within the Masonic order, because they can deny or grant lending. And they do that subject to their plans for your society. So what I'm telling you is that bankers are the high priestess who decide which part of your town will be generating economic activity or not. So our banks are fully infiltrated, and so is law enforcement. The sheriff, they wear 5-pointed sheriff's badges, or sometimes they wear 7-pointed stars, right? Those are Masonic signs and symbols. The 5-star pentagram, which the Hollywood stars are based on, it's referred to also as a pentacle, and it's to represent the 5 senses of humanity: hearing, seeing, smell, taste, and touch. Those are the 5 senses: taste, touch, smell, vision, and hearing. All right? And then in the Jewish synagogues and Egyptian temples and some medieval Christian churches, we have something that resembles the Star of David. That's just the pyramid, a triangle, two pyramids laid inverted onto themselves to create the 6 points. And it's the Star of David. All right. And of course, you know, the number 6 comports to 33, which is the highest level of the Masonic chain of command. And that would be the Jewish synagogues, the Egyptian temples, and Hindu temples, and medieval Christian churches. All right. That's the Star of David 6, number 6, 33. All right. Then the 7-pointed star that some sheriff's deputies wear is what's called the heptagram. That represents balance and harmony, divine protection. It also represents 7 chakras and 7 celestial bodies. But it is a sign and symbol of protection. But who are they protecting? They're protecting the highest level within the Masonic Temple. They're not there to protect most of the Masonic members. The majority of Mason members are considered profane and vulgar themselves. They're in a cult, but they're at a low level, so they're never going to be privy to all the felony crimes going on at the top. And they do have a sex cult at the top, and that does involve the sacrifice of people, typically children, and typically children belonging to members who want to move up within the cult. So, you know, some people that I could give you as an example would be Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger. Other examples would be John Benet Ramsey. Another example would be Stephanie Bryan, that Jennifer Small and I just covered in an extensive expose on the city of Berkeley and the murder back in April 28th, 1955, in the Elmwood district, the Claremont Elmwood district of Berkeley, right on the Oakland border, where Claremont Avenue intersects the Warren Freeway, Highway 13. We had the murder of a 14-year-old young girl who was innocent but murdered anyway. She had 2 holes in her skull, and that's what killed her. All right, so normally I don't delve into these subjects. I have spoken about Manly P. Hall before, when I first started out, and I talked about Aleister Crowley and other occultists in Pacific Palisades. I've talked about Mae Brussels' father, Edwin Magnan. Mae Brussels, that's not her real name, it's Magnan. Her name is Mae Magnan, and her father was the rabbi on Wilshire Boulevard for the synagogue there at 3663 Wilshire Boulevard, which, if you don't know, that adds up to 666, Mark of the Beast. He was the rabbi there for 70 years. He was considered the rabbi to the stars of Hollywood, and his address was 666 Wilshire Boulevard. I hope I'm communicating with you, if you're a late or a new member of my show, is that the signs and symbols are everywhere. Look at San Francisco. You got the Transamerica Pyramid, the tallest obelisk in the city of San Francisco. What's the street address? 600 Montgomery Street. That's 33. Okay, what are the other significant buildings in the financial district of San Francisco? Well, the most famous building really is a 13-story building, the Merchants Exchange building in San Francisco at 465 California Street, and it comports to 33. And it has 13 floors. And what tenants are on the 13th floor? Knights of Malta are on the 13th floor. I've been on the 13th floor. Yes, I have. I've also been in the basement, the windowless basement of that building, to be in a competitive dominoes tournament. So I've been in the lobby, I've been on the 13th, and I've been in the negative first floor in the basement. It's called the Sewer Club. Across the street, across Montgomery Street from the Merchants Exchange building, is the Bank of America Tower for where was their world headquarters established in 1968 in San Francisco, the address being 555 California Street. If you add up 555, you get 15. 15 is a 1 plus 5 is a 6. 6 is a 33, right? So we've got three buildings that are prominent in San Francisco. And in the case of the Bank of America building, they put carnelian granite all around Kearny Street and Pine Street and California Street to where you walk across to get into the building. To gain access to the building, you have to go past the Black Rock. They have a ginormous Swedish marble black stone, also known as the Black Rock, also known as the Banker's Heart. The Banker's Heart is cold as a black stone. And I worked in that building for 3 years. I would know how many times did I touch the black stone with the palm of my hand? At least 100 times. Hoping that it would bring me luck. It didn't really bring me anything. I'm not a member of the club, so nothing happened. Anyway, it's around the corner of Kearny Street and California Street in the northwest corner of 555 California Street, the Bank of America building. All right, it's number 33 building. It's 52 stories tall, which is a 7, which stands for completeness and perfection. And Paul Pelosi was across the street, across Pine Street on Montgomery Street. He was in the Rust building on the 11th floor, which comports to the 9th floor of the Bank of America building. I'm not going to get into Pelosi. I've covered him extensively in other videos, which are behind my paywall. So if you want to know about Paul and Nancy Pelosi and their occultism, you need to go become a paid member. All right, so what I wanted to tell you is I got the Transamerica Pyramid, I have the Bank of America building, and I have the Merchants Exchange building, the tallest building in San Francisco to not collapse in the earthquake of 1906. All of those three buildings are number 33 address. All right, so the people in the highest level of all of our pyramids within the pyramid, within banking, within the military, within law enforcement, within our judicial branches, all the judges are all compromised. They're all wearing black robes, are they not? They were all wearing COVID masks, are they not? The COVID being a member of the Maskers Club, that includes every single Hollywood Screen Actors Guild member is a member of the Maskers Club. So too 100% of all the judges, appellate judges, Supreme Court judges, okay, Judge Thomas, Clarence Thomas, and all the way down to all your Superior Court judges and all the criminals that are in the state of Kentucky that run a brothel out of their jail. They're all in the satanic cult wearing a black robe. That includes Anthony Napolitano. He's a member of the Black Robe Satanic Order, is he not? Well, he's not a judge anymore, but he wore a black robe, and he would have worn a COVID mask if he was a judge sitting on an elevated bench of pompous authority when you have no authority. These are all people who have corrupt mouths. And the way that you lie is by concealing the truth, both your secret oaths and your secret rituals, which Anthony Napolitano is a classic case of. You don't hear Anthony Napolitano talking about chemtrail dumpings, Terra Swarm, CRISPR therapeutics, airplanes dumping aluminum chalk. You don't hear him talking about that, right? Do you think he's a moron? Do you think he's an idiot that he doesn't know that that's going on? Of course he knows it's going on, and he doesn't talk about it. And neither does his cohort, Jeffrey Sachs, PhD of Harvard University. So he's in the cult too, right? Just like Victor Davis Hanson. And all the pseudo PhDs like Jennifer Doudna, like Jamie Cates, like Rachel Horowitz, like Christopher Pitzer, like Joy Weiss of MIT, Christopher Pitzer of UC Berkeley. And you're talking about Harvard, Princeton, Yale, MIT. You're talking about Stanford University, the University of California Systems, all 9 campuses. You're talking about all the think tanks, the Brookings Institute, the Hoover Institute, the Asian Institute. Okay, if you're associated with the Asian Institute and you went to Yale and Harvard, you are 100% in the cult. You might as well put a black robe on and a big face diaper. All right? You have a corrupt mouth. You have a corrupt mouth. So the first way you lie is by keeping secrets, right? Concealing the truth. None of your business. You're not a temple worshiper. You treat the public who listens to your podcast as vulgar and profane. That means you have a corrupt mouth. Number two is when you do speak, you speak in lies or in Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky is an example of applied linguistics, meaning bald-faced pathological lying. So when you do lie, you lie. You say manufactured consent when you didn't even come up with the idea. Someone else did and you stole his idea. That's how people like Seymour Hersh get a Pulitzer Prize. That's how Jennifer Doudna got a Nobel Prize, by getting credit for work done by other people in biology and electrical engineering who came before her. Even Steve Wozniak came before Jennifer Doudna. But Steve Wozniak does not have a Pulitzer Prize, nor does he have a Nobel Prize. But Jennifer Doudna has a Nobel Prize, and she's been deemed Chancellor of Biomedicine at Cal Berkeley, which is undeserved. She doesn't see patients. This is occultism, right? It's bald-faced lying. It's keeping secrets. It's the sealed lips. It's the shush. These are Masonic signs and symbols. Shush. This. The pyramid. Donald Trump does that pyramid all the time. When he's sitting, he'll do upside-down pyramid. That's the square and compass. That's the square and compass. That's the square and compass of the Masons, who demolish things first before they can build back better. 33. You can't build back better until you prepare a foundation. Also, the creeps that wear the Masons, wear the aprons in the Masonic orders of the Scottish Rites and the Knights Templar. They have those Masons. What does that conceal? It conceals their personal private obelisks, because they're only men, and they each have an obelisk called a penis, and they conceal it by wearing